Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to talk about a word you've definitely heard tossed around a lot, audits. And trust me, they're way more interesting than just numbers and spreadsheets. They're actually the main tool we use to build trust in the world around us. So, let's dive in.
So, let me ask you this. A company comes out and says they've had record-breaking profits. A charity claims 95% of your donation goes straight to the people who need it. A government agency says it's running at peak efficiency. These are all huge claims, right? But how do we, the people on the outside, really know if they're telling the truth? How can we be sure?
Well, that's exactly the problem that audits are designed to solve. They're the answer to that big "how do we know" question. Which brings us to our first section. What in the world is an audit? Think of it as the official checkup. Okay, so at its core, an audit is a formal and independent look at something. Formal just means it follows a set of rules and procedures, but independent, that's the magic word. It means the person doing the checking has to be an objective outsider with no skin in the game. And their goal isn't just to hunt for mistakes, it's to give a professional opinion on whether the information is fair, accurate, and follows the rules.
Here's a really simple way to think about it. An auditor is basically like a referee in a big sports game. They're not playing for the home team, and they're not playing for the visitors. Their one and only job is to watch the game closely, make sure everybody is following the rules, and confirm that the final score is a true reflection of what actually happened. They keep the game honest.
Now, while you can audit almost anything, the type we hear about most often is the financial audit. It's the one we always connect with business. So for this next part, let's zoom in on that. We're going to follow the money and see what that process really looks like.
So what are the essential ingredients here? Well, it all starts with that key idea again, independence. The auditor has to be an outsider. The subject matter, what they're actually looking at, is the company's financial story. The balance sheet, the income statement, all that stuff. The whole purpose is to give assurance, which is just a fancy word for confidence. They do that through a process of digging into evidence and testing the company's systems. And at the very end, you don't just get a pass or fail. You get a formal report with the auditor's professional opinion.
And that brings us to the whole point of this thing. It's all about providing assurance. That confidence is what allows an investor to feel good about buying stock, or what allows a bank to say, okay, we'll give you that loan. A true and fair view simply means you can trust that the financial story the company is telling is reliable. It's the real deal. So how do they actually do it? You might be picturing someone in a back room checking every single receipt and every single invoice from the entire year, but nope, that would be completely impossible. Instead, auditors work smart. They examine key pieces of evidence. They test the company's own systems for catching errors. Those are called internal controls. And they use selective testing, or sampling, to get a solid snapshot of the whole picture. From all of that, they can piece together enough information to form their expert opinion. Okay, so we've been talking a lot about money, companies, and financial statements, because that's the most common type of audit. But that raises a really important question. Is that all this is about? Is this just a tool for accountants in Wall Street, or is it bigger than that? Well, the answer is, it is so much bigger. And this is where things get really interesting. In this next section, we're going to explore what I like to call the audit family tree. And you'll see just how far this idea stretches beyond the numbers on a page. This table here does a fantastic job of breaking it all down. That external audit at the top, that's the one we've been focused on for investors and the public. But look at an internal audit. That's done by the company's own people to help management fix problems and get better. Then there's the one nobody likes to think about, a tax audit. That's the government making sure you paid your fair share. A compliance audit checks if an organization is following specific laws, like, say, environmental rules. And finally, an operational audit has nothing to do with rules or money. It just asks a simple question. Are we doing this in the smartest, most efficient way possible?
So, after looking at all these different flavors of audits, it all leads to the big, final question. Why does any of this really matter? Why should we care? Well, this last section ties everything we've talked about back to that one single, powerful idea: trust.
This is really the bottom line. Think about it. Without some system of independent verification, how could our complex global economy even work? How could you trust your retirement savings to an investment fund? How could we hold our governments accountable for how they spend our tax money? Audits are the mechanism that creates that accountability. They are, quite literally, the foundation of trust that our systems are built on. And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. We live in an age where we are just flooded with information and claims all day, every day. From corporations, from politicians, from social media, everybody's telling you something. In a world like that, the basic principle of an audit, of an independent, evidence-based check has never been more critical. It forces us all to ask that one vital question: who checks the facts? Thanks for tuning in.